we in business? I think we might be in business.
I think we might be in business.
It's in the words of Flight of the Concords. It's business time. Wednesday night.
It's not that kind of. It's not that kind of Zoom call, Ben.
I'm just glad you know what I'm talking
I'm not
about.
wearing my. I'm not wearing my business socks. Oh yeah, I'm not wearing my business socks.
That's why they call them business socks.
On that note, hi Ben.
Hi, Carl. How are you?
I'm good. I miss you. I feel like we had a couple weeks where we weren't really able to get together, and I don't like that. I like seeing you every Wednesday, and I don't like it when I don't see you.
Aw, I feel the same way. And Wednesday night is a good night. And yeah, thanks for being with us today.
Of course, of course. Who else is here?
Oh, my wife's in the other room. You know, I don't know.
Okay.
Nobody else.
It's like, is your house haunted? Yeah.
I don't know
So,
what I'm saying.
okay. So I never know what I'm saying. So you're in good company. So we wanted to talk today about the lessons that we've learned over the past 4 years. And that's because last week we released the episode where it was a re-release of the first time that I was on Secret Sonics as a guest. And it was our first time actually meeting and talking. And it was 2020. I think it was
August of 2020.
somewhere in there.
I mean, it might have been recorded in like July, but it
yeah.
was released in August of 2020. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically
so
4 years ago.
and it's so 4 years ago, that was still in the thick of COVID, and a lot has changed, not just for, us, like we both have had, we've had more children since then, but also the world's changed quite a bit, and the music industry especially has changed quite a bit. So I would love today to look back at some of the things that we learned from these past 4 years, and maybe even some things that we expected to happen but didn't, or never expected to happen but did. But I'm going to kick it to you first.
All right. Well, I'm going to skip over the expectation thing for now. I think the biggest change for me sonically, musically, was getting a really good pair of speakers. And I think when we recorded in August of 2020, I was still using my Yamaha HS80s. So that was basically a newbie pair of speakers. And I thought I had, my room was treated, so I thought I was getting decent results, but I was missing quite a lot. And so I upgraded to the Focal Shape Twins, which are not even that crazy expensive speakers, but they're very, very revealing and transparent. And yeah, they're just great to mix on. And, they're not ATCs, but I also haven't tried ATCs. But yeah, for me, that was like one of the biggest upgrades in terms of my mixing and production and everything, just because it was really like putting on a new pair of glasses for me, and just really enabled me to hear the mid-range so much better and to make such more judicious decisions while mixing. And yeah, like I thought room treatment was like I always believed in room treatment, but getting a better pair of speakers made me believe in better speakers. And if you are still working on, newbie speakers, no shade to the HS80, it's a good way to get started, but like get yourself a good pair of speakers, because you will be mind blown about what the difference and what you can hear. And then, and like, obviously we talked about we had our reference mixes episode, get really familiar with those speakers and listen to a lot of your favorite music and songs and mixes on the speakers first. But yeah, it's just a total game changer, and it just made me a better mixer, and it made my mixes, improved much more quickly, fewer referencing on different monitors and headphones and stuff. Just made everything faster also because of that. It was just like the best money I've ever invested, was just like getting better speakers. So I think that might be like, after you get your room treated, think about getting some good speakers, because I think that's just like the best money you'll spend. I'm not like usually such a gear or techie person, but this was probably the biggest difference I had over the past 4 years. Yeah. How about you, Carl? I'll turn it over to you to tell me a bit about what happened to you over the last 4 years.
No. You're not done yet. I've got follow-up questions. You can't just do that, because we're not done. Well, no, because I want to know.
Fair enough.
So that's like, one of the biggest, that was like, one of the bigger changes that happened in your studio setup, right? But the premise isn't what changed about your studio setup. The premise is, what have you learned over the past 4 years? So I want to take what you said and kind of do the natural like follow-up question to that, which is when you got those new speakers and when you put on those new glasses, like you said, for the first time, what are the things that you learned about old Ben, and what are the things like what are like the bad habits that you had to get rid of, and
Yes.
what are some maybe some better habits that you developed because you were suddenly more aware of it and had more clarity about what your weaknesses were in mixing, because you could see everything in so much, or you could, I keep on saying I'm mixing metaphors here, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's different sensations, right? Like the visual versus the hearing, but it's a good analogy. So I understand the point you're making.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great question, also, Carl. I mean, I think the biggest thing it revealed to me was that I was over processing so much, especially with EQ, and the reason why, looking back on it, was because the crossover on those cheap speakers are not very good, and so I was doing. Perhaps it was that, perhaps it was more than that, but yeah, I was just doing too much work in the mid range and trying too hard to make things work when they probably would have worked better had I done less. And less is more. And I think that's been a big lesson for me is less is more. And when you hear, you know, great mixes through great speakers, you really get a better sense of what things are supposed to sound like. And I was just like seeing how much work I was doing with EQ, which wasn't actually making things sound better. Um, and so yeah, I do a lot less processing now when it comes to, I could also hear compression better, so like all these things were helping me make better decisions in the mixing process. So and then, yeah, I think I've become a more simplified, faster, quicker, hear that, do that kind of thing. And also because I've grown to trust these speakers, it's like bing, bang, boom, you make the move, it's going to work in the outside
Yeah.
world because you've already done so many things on these speakers that work in the outside world, and you've referenced all the other mixes on these speakers as well. So yeah, it's just like it basically takes you from almost like like a shooting metaphor. It's like almost like you have like a really good scope on, so before you were like shooting blind, now it's like, oh, I see that, not that I own any weapons or would want to, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, you can make more precise surgical decisions with confidence because you can
Yes.
actually hear the difference. You can tell what you're slicing open.
Yeah, and I'm not
Yeah,
overdoing it. I'm
that's a
just
very
kind of,
violent collection of.
yeah, I don't know. I was thinking like hunting. Yeah, it's like, yeah, whatever. I'm gonna take it back. Like you could leave it in Gavi, but yeah, surgical is better. I got really good glasses to perform surgery, says the guy that knows nothing about being a doctor.
I don't think you're the only guy here that doesn't know anything about being a doctor.
I think our entire listenership knows nothing about being a doctor.
Yeah, we're all in good company here.
Awesome. I hope that answered your question, Carl. I'd love to hear from you
Yeah,
what the number one lesson you learned over the last 4 years was.
that I can do it.
Go on.
And whatever it is that I'm. Maybe it's like a self confidence lesson that I had. Knowing the difference between I can do anything versus I can learn anything. And I think getting a deeper understanding of that and gradually, despite my stubborn instincts, figuring out how to make those kind of changes for mixing, for my business, for client relationships, for my family, whatever it is. I think that's the biggest thing because I feel like COVID challenged us. It challenged all of us in a lot of different ways, creatively, financially, relationship fully. That's not a word. And the I think people pulled through a lot better than we expected. I know I pulled through a lot better than I expected, and I think that was a really big lesson for me. I know it's not like super audio specific, but of all the different experiences that I've been able to have in these past couple years, of all of the challenges that I've faced, I've either figured it out or I tried to figure it out, realized that I couldn't do it quite yet, and was able to decide like, oh, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to put the time in to learn this particular skill or go after this particular, crazy idea that I have, or not? And I think the prioritization was something that COVID really forced a lot of us because we had to prioritize our health and our family over our social, you know, experiences. We had to prioritize, for a lot of people, we had to prioritize trying to figure out how to keep income coming in the door instead of, buying all the fun, cool plugins. We had to like really, you know, tighten our purses a bit. And yeah, I know I had the idea of making this a topic for today after having our 4 years ago, our So Young and Naive Ben and Carl episode come out last week. But I admittedly didn't think about what my actual answer was going to be, partly because I haven't had a chance because the girls haven't been sleeping very well. So I've just been kind of running on fumes for a while, but also
Oh,
because
dude, you have my empathy. I've been there.
yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm speaking to the choir there, but I don't know. I guess it never really occurred to me until you asked me and I started answering it.
Hmm.
So I'm kind of having this revelation in real time.
Yeah. Well, I want to I want to respond to that in a bunch of things. First of all, COVID, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I waited like for my answer about speakers. I waited longer than I wanted to for speakers because income wasn't coming in like I wanted it to during the pandemic. Like, there was a moment there where I was just like, is this all over? Like, I'm sure a lot of people had that moment, in COVID of like, is this it? And like, thankfully the tides turned, but it got hairy there for a second. Um, but yeah, like I was listening back to the episode we did 4 years ago, and I was just like, wow, Carl was sort of getting to where he is today, but he wasn't there yet. And I like, just like listening to like what we were talking about. It's like, okay, you weren't like fully down as like a mixer yet. You were also doing production stuff still. And also, you weren't doing any coaching or branding stuff. You were just you were still limited to only the music stuff that you were doing. So it sounds like there was quite a lot of evolution since that conversation on your end. So it's just kind of cool to see how it all like sort of shook out and blossomed.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, it's been a very eventful 4 years, for sure,
Indeed.
for both of us.
Yeah, for both of us. Yes, the world is a crazy place. Awesome.
Yes. So I wanted to go back to what I said in the beginning, and I want to see if there were any things that you maybe predicted was going to happen by this time and didn't, or things that you had no idea were going to be a thing and ended up coming to pass.
Yeah. I mean, I think I think my answers are not good because I think I felt like
That's
maybe
okay.
back then I thought I would have more remote clients by now. And the truth is that I don't have as much remote clients as I would like to. I'm still sort of local, which is a problem when your country's at war. Um, but yeah. So I don't know if that's a good answer. But again, like 4 years ago, I thought it might all be over with COVID because COVID was really rocking my business. But I did have a resurgence, and things were going, at least until this war here, things were going much better. So. Yes and no. Things have been interesting for me. But like, yeah, I mean, I get the biggest change in my life has been my family life, just because I've had 2 kids since we last spoke, and I've thankfully been able to sort of craft my
Since
studio
that
life.
to be clear, you've had 2 kids since that podcast, not since we last spoke last week.
Yes, no,
Right?
definitely.
Okay. I was like,
Yeah,
is there
yeah.
something you need to tell me, Ben?
Pregnancy is like almost 10 months. Okay, so yeah. It's been we had since 4 years ago we've had 2 kids. Yeah, that's like been like a really significant change for my life. In my life, and I've been really lucky and able to sort of craft the studio life around that, so that I'm home with my kids during bedtime, and we're like very much co-parenting, and doing it in a very egalitarian sort of way, which I'm all about. And not everybody is able to do that. And so I feel really lucky about that. And that's, yeah, I guess that's something that I wasn't sure about, but I've been able to sort of keep it up. And what that means saying no to some projects, and that means, being very rigorous about, when I'm working, when I'm not working. But overall, that's been like, hey, like I wasn't sure how this would work out, but that has been working out. So I guess that's kind of the coolest thing in terms of to answer that question of like, yeah, what might happen, not happen. According to,
Did you think? Oh, did you think you'd have a co-host?
never thought I'd have a co-host. It's
Do
funny.
you regret it?
No, dude, you saved the podcast. Well, yeah, it's funny because when I first started this podcast, I wanted to have a co-host, and then I couldn't find anybody who was like ready to commit and was also at least as interesting and talkative as me. So I just started by myself, and then here we are in 2024, and the podcast could not have gone on by myself because I was not in a place where I could just keep it going the way I had been. So yeah, things went differently, and I think it's for the better because now it's a different Secret Sonics, and I think it's great. I think the old one was great. I think this one is great and in very different ways. And I think I did enough episodes of the other Secret Sonics that this one's time has come. So yeah, that's how I feel. Let me turn this whole question over to you, Carl, though. I'm feeling like I'm talking for too long.
It's okay. Hit me.
Wait, so what was something that you maybe expected to happen that didn't happen, or something that you weren't expecting to happen but did happen?
Well, something that I did not expect to happen was me going into the world of helping other producers and engineers with their businesses. Like that was not on my bingo card at all. And looking back, like it makes complete sense why I do it, why I love it, because it really scratches so many itches for me, and everything that I've done in my career over the past 20 years has kind of like led down this path without me even realizing it. So like in retrospect, I'm not surprised at all. Being an educator for 19 years, like, of course I'm going to want to keep teaching people. I just got very tired of teaching little kids, teaching 7-year-olds how to play the same Green Day songs over and over again gets old. But as far as things that I did think would happen but wouldn't, I don't know. I don't want to give a non-answer and say that I was never I didn't have enough hubris to think that I could predict the future. Like, I'm not going to be a dick and say something like that because it's not a helpful answer. But
well, I think I messed up your original question anyways. Was it, maybe there was something that you did want to do and that did come into fruition. What was that thing 4 years ago that has been happening since?
Oh, wait, something that I predicted that did happen, do you mean? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think I knew, or at least like I had a really good feeling back in like 2018, 2019 that the music industry was going to shift way more heavily into remote collaboration. I didn't know how swiftly and all-encompassing that change was going to happen, and but that has continued to just go deeper and deeper and deeper into that world of artists being open to collaborating with people that they've never met in person, with producers and engineers who have a background only in working in person, figuring out how to work remotely and realizing that it opens up so many more opportunities and they can find way more people that they actually see eye to eye musically with, and more people that value the unique thing they bring to their table because you're not relying on only the people that are within, 45-minute drive of your house or your studio. So that part, like, I'm very thankful that I was right about that. I also thought that things were going to tank for my business. Just like you were saying, like when COVID hit, like I was really stressed out and worried that, it was mixing, hiring somebody to mix is probably one of the first things on the list that people do when they're, faced with a catastrophic emergency like a global pandemic. So I really thought it was gonna. I expected that, and I'm very thankful that that did not come true. If anything, it's been the opposite. But yeah, I don't know. I'm so I honestly okay. Another thing I did not expect to happen was for the advancements in AI. I'm sorry you're gonna get grumpy with me bringing up AI again, but whatever. But the fact that there are so many good things you can do for humanity with AI, and yes, humanity, but also like in music specifically because it's a music podcast.
Yeah. For now,
for now, yes. Well, it's a music podcast for now, or AI is can do good things for now.
That's what I meant. Yeah, the latter.
Okay, it's fine. We're just gonna keep on fighting about the net positive or the net negative.
There's nothing we can do about it. It's gonna play out, and now we just have to wait to see how it all crumbles, right?
Yeah. So just make sure that you say please and thank you to your almighty,
your
digital overlords, and you'll be fine. But I think. Yeah.
Did you think you'd be a co-host on Secret Sonics when I first interviewed you?
No, I never thought I would do public speaking, really, of any sort. Whether that's a podcast or not. Like I think you were actually one of the first podcasts, maybe that might have been the first podcast I think that I was ever on.
Wow.
That was I guess that was like focused on with me as a guest. Like I'd been on some before that were just like, friends doing it, but I think that was the first like actual podcast that had an audience, and it was, it was like the difference between playing, grungy basement shows in high school and then playing like a real venue in a city. It's
like a small real venue, like you know what I mean, like
but a real venue nonetheless.
Right? Got a 150
like a Mercury Lounge.
Oh yeah, sure. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I thought I was like you might know that place. So I never thought that I would be a co-host on Secret Sonics, but I never thought that I would be even like having any interest in wanting to talk in front of a camera or open my mouth in general. I was still very much in hide behind a computer screen mode because I had transitioned from hide behind a drum set mode into hide behind a computer screen mode, and the remote work definitely encouraged that because I could just be behind a screen and I could, turn on my temporary extroversion as needed. But honestly, I think ever since you asked me to be a co-host on here, I feel so much more at peace with doing this kind of thing, and I enjoy it way more. And I honestly think it's because it's such a great time talking to you. And that's why I said earlier, I get grumpy when I don't see Ben often enough and we don't do episodes. So
I keep Carl an extrovert for the masses.
Yep. And then in between recording sessions, I just like slink down behind the couch to recharge.
Like, where did Carl go? It's like, my extroversion battery is out.
Yes.
We're done. I think that one of the big lessons, we don't have to expand too much on it, but I think one of the big things over the last 4 years for me has been working with clients that I trust and who I like and they like me, and B, working on music that I like as much as possible, and being okay with saying no to projects. And and also like I've mentioned this, but like another thing that I didn't see coming was having a podcast post-production business, which has also given me the sort of luxury and flexibility to say no to musical projects I don't want to work on, and only work on musical projects that I'm really interested in. And that has made working on music always fun, and just like, it's better to do a job on a job than to do a job of music. Like if it's music, like I feel like if you're emotionally connecting to the music, then it's a joy and a gift, and it's like, then your full like creative capacities can kind of come out, and you can kind of do your best work, and it doesn't make you hate what you're doing. So I think kind of like that sweet combination of finding the people you connect with and the music you connect with will just like that's really just like the most important thing you can do for music, because otherwise, you're an audio engineer the same way you could be an electrical engineer, and that's not why we're doing that. That's not why we signed up for this crazy, crazy industry where you could work your ass off for 5 to 10 years and maybe you'll make it or maybe you won't. You know what I mean? Like that's not why. So, anyways, that's sort of like my other big takeaway over 4 years. I don't know if you've had similar feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I guess yes, I've had similar feelings, but I think they've manifested themselves in a bit of a different way. And I agree that I have gotten much more confident in saying no over the past 4 years. But I think what I don't know, I guess like I'm trying to think of how to phrase this in a way that makes sense to someone who hasn't listened to me ramble on about like personality niches a bunch. But I think what I've found is that if I really put the focus on making sure that the people that I'm working with, the people that are hiring me, that I get along with them as people, even if the music isn't the most earth-shatteringly amazing thing I've ever heard, it's a lot easier for me to find inspiration in the music and find joy in working on it, even if it may not exactly be what I would listen to for fun. For myself, I know that if I'm working on a project collectively as a collaborator with great people, then that makes it so much more fun for me than if the song is amazing but the people are dicks. So
Right.
in a way, I'm in a very similar, place of feeling way more confident saying no and really understanding the value of saying no. But I tend to, or it tends to manifest itself by me not necessarily saying no to people that I don't get along with, because that's doesn't usually always come across that directly, but it's more about putting so much more of my conscious effort into making sure that I'm attracting and starting conversations with people that I think I am going to really get along with. So it just makes that the filtering process a lot easier and a lot more natural and less reliant upon me having to, have a tough conversation sometimes
Yeah.
and just saying, no, I don't think we're going to work together because I don't think I'm going to like you. I might think that, but I'm not going to, I don't want to have to say that. So maybe that's the ultimate reason why I go so hard on like my social media and my branding and messaging. It's like, I want people to like pull themselves away if they're not going to get along with me.
Yeah. You're filtering it out into the right to be the right people. And also, yeah, I totally resonate with that. I'm sorry. The human element is actually more important than the musical element. And I think it's especially true with mixing, where you don't have to be quite as married to it as you do with like a production. But absolutely, I definitely find joy in the human connection with the people I work with, the artists I work with, and I always want to help people I like and care about. And so if there's someone that I like and are nice and we build a good rapport, all the more reason that I'm going to have their back and want to help them put out the best music that for obviously it's always their music, right? Anyways, right? Like that they're going to be happy with and they're going to be proud of, and it's going to be a joy for me to be of service and to facilitate it, So I'm totally with you and aligned with that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I appreciate you being vulnerable and talking about the things that you've learned and the ways that you've grown over the past 4 years.
Yeah, likewise, Carl. Thanks for sharing your story. And it was fun to re-listen to that episode because, like, we literally didn't know each other. It's so funny. But
Yeah.
I think, and as much as things have also changed for us, I think a lot of what I heard was, same old Carl, same old Ben. Like, the way our approach to mixing, even like just like the fact that we are still kind of like making as many access points as possible to like, automations and stuff like that. All these things that like we're both still doing and we were also doing back then was really cool, even though we didn't know each other. So yeah, it's just fun to revisit that little moment in time. And here we are, and moving on and moving forward to bigger, better, more fun things, and continued, nice podcast chats.
Yeah.
Oh wait, and before we end this podcast, if you've been enjoying this podcast, can you please just like leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts? Just the littlest, tiniest thing would help us. And share this episode or your favorite episode with a friend or two. There's a little housekeeping because I think it's time to do a little bit more housekeeping on the podcast. But that's it. I don't want to go too long on it.
Well, if you don't want to send your favorite episode to a friend, send your least favorite episode to an enemy.
I love that. So good.
So Ben, you're amazing. I love talking to you, and here's to 4 more years.
4 more years. All right.
And hope so many more babies.
Right.
Or we'll never sleep.
Exactly. Just the right amount of babies.
Yes. The right amount. That's a better title for this podcast anyway. Bye, Ben.
Bye, Carl.